They laughed the moment he walked in. A single dad, a veteran, stepping into a boot camp filled with recruits half his age. His beard carried strands of gray, his boots looked worn yet polished, and his eyes, though steady, hid years of sacrifice. They whispered behind him, nudging each other with smirks. Too old. He won't last a week. Probably here because he's desperate. But he said nothing. He simply tightened the strap on his pack and walked to his bunk with the quiet dignity of a man who had already fought wars most of them couldn't even imagine. At night, while the others laughed and complained about the drills, he sat on the edge of his bed writing letters to his little girl. She was the reason he was here. He wasn't trying to prove his strength, not to them, not even to himself. He was here to secure a better future for her. Every push-up, every mile run, every bruise and every blister was for her smile. He taped her picture inside his locker, her tiny hands holding his uniform cap, her big eyes full of pride. When exhaustion threatened to break him, he looked at that picture and kept moving. But the recruits didn't stop. They mocked the way he moved slower in the sprints, the way his knees cracked when he knelt. Some laughed at the sight of him trying to keep up with their chants, his deep voice shaking with effort. Still, he never lashed out. Instead, he trained harder, running at dawn before roll call, doing push-ups long after the lights went out. Slowly, a few began to notice. His discipline was different. His silence wasn't weakness, it was control. He had walked through fire before, and it showed. Then came the day of inspection. The female commander, sharp, stern, respected, marched down the rows, her eyes like steel scanning every recruit. No one dared to breathe wrong in her presence. When she reached him, she paused. Stand straight, she barked, and he obeyed. Remove your shirt, let's see if you've kept up with conditioning. He did as ordered, peeling off the sweat-soaked fabric. The room went quiet. Across his broad back, a massive tattoo sprawled from shoulder to shoulder. At first, the recruits leaned in, trying to make out the design. And then, silence fell like a storm. The commander froze, her stern eyes wide with recognition. It was a tattoo of a battlefield cross, the rifle, helmet, and boots symbolizing the fallen. Beneath it were etched names. Names of soldiers lost in combat. Names that weren't just ink, but stories of lives once lived. At the center of the design was a date that made her hand tremble. She knew it. She was there. Her lips parted as memories rushed back. Chaos, fire, the day she thought she wouldn't survive. And then she remembered the man who had pulled her from the wreckage, shielding her with his own body. The very man standing before her now. The room held its breath. The commander's voice, usually sharp as steel, broke into a whisper. You. She stepped closer, her hands tightening behind her back. You saved me. Every recruit snapped their heads toward him, stunned. The laughter that had haunted him for weeks turned into a heavy silence filled with guilt and awe. The commander's eyes softened, a rare sight. She saluted him, a gesture that shook every soul in that room. And then, slowly, every recruit followed, raising their hands in respect to the man they had mocked. He didn't gloat. He didn't smile. He simply nodded, his eyes moist as he thought of his daughter. All he ever wanted was to keep fighting for her future. Now, finally, they understood what kind of strength it took. Not just muscles or speed, but sacrifice, patience, and love that never quits. From that day on, the whispers stopped. The recruits no longer laughed. They followed him, learned from him, leaned on his quiet leadership. And when the final march came, it was his little girl sitting in the stands, waving proudly as he stood tall, not just as a soldier, not just as a veteran, but as a father who refused to break. If this story touched your heart, remember, strength isn't about who laughs the loudest, but who keeps going when no one believes in them. Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs courage today, and subscribe for more stories that remind us all what true resilience looks like.